Hey everybody, MrFlavorsmith here, and today we are going to do some spinning. That's right, we're going to do some spinning chickens, some rotisserie chickens. Normally, I'd only do one chicken at a time, but today I'm going to try two at the same time, and we are going to do it on our Weber 22-inch kettle with our Only Fire rotisserie extension pizza combo. What makes this a little special is I've done something I have never done before, and I put together a wet brine for these two chickens, and they've been in the refrigerator wet brining for 72 hours. That is a first. I have never ever even attempted that before. The longest I've gone is 48 hours. The idea behind this is we're gonna get that salt that really penetrates in the muscles and all of that tissue, and it's gonna really help hydrate. It brings in that water. That way we get a really, really moist bird at the end. Normally I use charcoal briquettes when I do my rotisserie birds because I don't like to use a lot and I want it to last throughout the entire cook without me having to restock it. Well, this time we're gonna try and use the B&B Lump Charcoal, and we are gonna add just a little bit of pecan to the top. That way we get a nice little smoky flavor to it, because when I was a kid, the very first thing I ever did was smoked pheasant, and I loved smoked poultry. I was 8 years old, I was out there in the backyard, and I was smoking a pheasant. I love smoked poultry. Poultry does a really great job smoked, so adding just a little bit of that wood flavor to it should really make these birds super, super tasty. But before we get going, I want to run the clip and show you exactly what I did for that 72-hour wet brine. All right, now you've seen everything involved in that wet brine, so without further ado, let's get into this cook. All right, just like I said before, we're gonna be using B&B charcoal. It's lump coal with oak premium hardwood blend. We're also gonna be using a couple little chunks of Western premium barbecue products, pecan chunk, which I really like pecan. I'm kind of addicted to that smoky flavor that pecan puts off right now. And then I just used 2 of the fire starters from Fire and Flavor. I just put them right underneath my chimney. And we're gonna fill up this chimney about halfway with lump coal. That way we get enough to work with, but we don't need to fill up the whole chimney. And instead of using 2 of the Weber coal baskets, we're only gonna use 1 today. I'm gonna try and do this a little bit lower and a little bit slower and just see what happens with this. Now I'm anticipating there might be a little bit of issues on time. Normally these like to cook at about 45 minutes to about an hour, but that's when I usually use 2 of the coal baskets. I'm gonna do something a little bit different because I had a viewer just recently say, hey, what if you use a lump coal, but just use 1 basket and put a little piece of wood on there? Will that work? Well, technically, yes, it might just take a little bit longer. And a lot of people do actually just do that. So we're gonna do that today. Let's get to it. Ooh, these are some big old chunks. Woo! Take a couple of these fire starters. Stick them right underneath. Kind of put them a little bit, space them out a little bit. Take my Boy Scout match. Light them up. This goes right over the top, just like that. Wait about 10 minutes. Now, I don't know if you can hear it really good, but what's really nice about lump coal is you can actually hear it crackling and, you know, burning and everything. It not only smells like a campfire, it sounds like a campfire. All right, let's go ahead and get this set up for the cook. Take a lid off. Take our grill grate out. We're not gonna need that. We're gonna put our single coal basket right here, just like this. Then we're gonna put our drip pans right here. Rotisserie chicken really juices a lot, so in order to keep your kettle nice and clean, put down some drip pans to catch some of those drippings. Then we're gonna put our Only Fire rotisserie pizza combo ring on with the motor towards the back. This is the motor mount right here. And we're gonna line it up to where our rod goes right like this. Perfect. And then we'll put our lid back on. We'll open our bottom vent all the way. Open our top vent all the way. Now it's time to get our spit set up. All right, in order for our spits to hold 2 birds, we're not gonna use 2 of them. Our system only allows 1. So we're gonna combine some of these holders onto 1 spit. I'm gonna go with my favorite spit. It's this one because it's a solid rod that goes all the way through. I have another one that has a connection point in the middle. So we're gonna use a solid one. And what we're first gonna do is move this down to here. And then we're gonna take this, move this off, and this is going to end up going like this. Let me just show you this. Take this one off. Take this one off. We no longer need this spit. Then we're going to slide this one down like this. And that bird's going to sit there like that. Going to tighten that down. Tighten this down. Then we're going to put the other one on. Hopefully, just like this. Now I did get 2 big birds, so we're really gonna have to adjust this best as we can, as far as we can. So now it's time to set it up and line it and see if we can actually fit 2 in there. We're gonna put our motor on the mount. It just slides on right on the back. Then we're gonna put our spit in, and that's not gonna work like that, so we need to adjust now. Get it in there. Let's see just how far we can go with this. So I know 1 bird's gonna sit like this. Will I be able to get 2 on there? That's the question. What I'll do is I'll just really lock this one down. Good, right there. That is our farthest point back on that one. So then we'll just press the bird on there, get it as squished down as possible. Press this one all the way on it, and then we'll try and squish 2 birds on there. Let's do that now. All right, we've got our 2 birds sitting in one of our new drippies containers. These things are super, super handy. If you've never used one before, I highly recommend getting one. It just makes everything so awesome. Let's put some gloves on first. And these are Inspire nitrile gloves. When dealing with meat, they're just good to have. Stick our gloves on first. Doctor, 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 doctor. Do you concur? I concur. Doctor, doctor. Let's get going. All right. And there are our 2 birds. Look at those little bad boys. All right, we know that our bottom skewer area is set. Tighten that down real good. Pull off this one. Pull off this one. Okay. And we're gonna get, first things first, let's tie these bad boys up. Now I know a lot of you do a lot of special things with how you tie your birds together. If anybody has a diagram on how they do that, I would love to see that. So, you can't necessarily put that here on this channel, but if you go to our MrFlavorsmith's YouTube page, or you join our Flavor Friends page, then you can post pictures and all sorts of stuff. Really join in and help everybody out. Help me out. I don't know a fancy way of doing this, so I'm just gonna tie them together as best as I can. Should have gone a little longer, but it'll work. 2 legs done there. How would I like to do these wings? I'd like to do it like this. If that's gonna work. I saw someone that did a real good tie job on the wings before, and I'm thinking I'd like to try to do that same thing. What I'll try to do. Should work. See if that works. Sure, why not? So pop this up just a little bit. I'm just gonna go right through the center. I wanted to keep that extra neck flap stuff on there. Hopefully it's not gonna cause too much of an issue. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna push this really well on there. Get that on there. Now we'll get the back side on really good too. Try and really push that on there. Tighten it down. Really good. That bird came at it kind of at an angle. There we go. There it is. There we go. And now I'll stick on another one of these. Right. Proper way. There we go. Crank her down. Okay, awesome. Now it's time to season. And we're going with what MrFlavorsmith wanted. I took my 3-year-old son shopping and I said, hey, what do you want on the bird? What spice do you want on the bird? He loves to open seasons and try them out, and he found this stuff. It's by Fire, Smoke, and Society. It's their Super Bird Roasted Chicken Rub. And I tell you what, I've used this stuff before and it's really good, so he chose wisely. All right, here we go. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start putting it on in all the pits and everything like that. And to be honest, I'm gonna apply more of this as time goes on and the juices start flowing again. I'm gonna put more on the outside of it. It's looking pretty good there. And that bird. Now let's get this bird. That looks pretty good. All right, now we'll stick it on. Put our gloves on for safety. Let's put our coal in. Now, this stuff's been at it for a little bit. Move it around just a little bit. Good. And while I'm here, right now, I'm gonna top it off. Let's get our bird on. Birds, plural. Goes in the motor first, all the way on that side. Ooh, that is heavy. Put it down. And let's turn on the motor. Hopefully it works. Ho, 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 ho. And look at that. We have 2 spinning birds. Woohoo! We are spinning. Let's apply a little more seasoning as this bird spins around while we have it here. Now those are some good looking birds. Oh yeah. It's looking really good. Let's put our wood chunk on there. We'll do that, a little bit of bark, right like that. And before you officially start any cook, if you know, you know, let's close the lid up. And we'll put our vent on the opposing side of our heat source. That way it goes up and it comes out. I almost forgot one thing. I always do this. Let's get our Typher dual sink gold up and going. Pull out probe number 1. We're gonna put it in the breast. That's bird number 1. Bird number 2, we're gonna put it in the breast, so we're gonna spin it. All right, we gotta push them all the way in. Let me just check the other one. All right, now we're good to go. Just because we're doing it again. Lid on. Vent over right here. Heat source over here. Vent over here. All right, so we're gonna set our Typher wireless probe system to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm okay with this getting a little bit more done. Just the reason why is because it's been brining for 72 hours. So if there was any room for any potential bacteria, getting it just a little more done is just perfect with me. And my family likes our poultry a little more done anyway. So let's set that now. All right, so we're gonna go in here, set our temperature. So we're gonna pick that one, hit that right there, hit enter. We're gonna hit edit. We want our target temp and we're just gonna bring it down. We want that all the way down to 165. All right, just like that, hit enter. Perfect. Now that's set right there. It's set at 165 degrees. Ambient temperature right now is 244 degrees Fahrenheit, and the internal temperature on probe 1 is at 44. So let's set up the other cook now. Move it over here, hit enter, hit manual, 165, enter, and there we go. So now we've got probe number 1, which is the far side, probe number 2, which is the closest one to us. We are set and we are good to go. What's really cool about this Typher is it will actually, once it starts calculating the ambient temperature, how long it's taking to get to temperature, so time and temp of the ambient and internal temp, it'll actually start giving you a target time of completion. So it will use a really sophisticated algorithm to go through and estimate how long that cook will take. So for me, I think in order for us to be done with this, 2 birds, 1 little Weber side basket of lump coal, I think it's gonna take like maybe an hour and a half. I don't think it's gonna take 2 hours. It might not even take an hour and a half. Okay, so we officially started the cook at 12:35 p.m. So we're gonna come back at 1:05 p.m. in a half hour and see where we're at. All right, so we're 30 minutes into it, and we have an internal temperature on probe number 1 of 74 degrees. Probe number 2 is at 62 degrees. We have an ambient temperature, I'm gonna say 329, because probe number 1 is reading 329. And I always go off of the hotter reading. It's estimating about an hour's time for the cook on probe number 1. Probe number 2, it's saying right at about an hour and 38 minutes, something like that. Let's check it out now. Oh, look at that. We've got a nice, not a crazy, I wouldn't call it a dirty smoke. It's not super clean, but it's not bad. It's just a nice low rolling smoke. That's just what I want, and it smells amazing. Let's open it up. Oh yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Wow. 30 minutes into it. Those chickens look pretty good 30 minutes into it. Let's take a closer look. There's chicken number 1. Oh, I'm sorry, that's chicken number 2. And that's chicken number 1. Look at that. All right, and I did, at about 10 minutes, I threw another piece of pecan in there because it really burned through the other ones quick. So I was worried about that, and I opened it up real quick. So that's why it looks a little different. But man, these birds are looking good already. I'm loving it. Photo time. All right, let's put the lid back on. We're gonna stick it right here on the open vent area. That way that bird gets a little more heat right there. We'll come back in 30 minutes. All right, so it's been exactly an hour, and we have an internal temperature on probe number 1 of 114 degrees Fahrenheit. Probe number 2, we have an internal temperature of 98 degrees Fahrenheit. We have an ambient temperature of 306 and 290. So yet again, we're gonna go off of 306. It spiked up to 329 for just a little bit and then went back down. So I imagine our coals are starting to get burned out a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're probably gonna just put a few more little pieces of lump coal on there to bring it back up. Let's check it out now. There we go. Oh, yeah. Look at those spinning beauties. Oh, yeah. And look, you can see a lot of our coals have been spent. But boy, those birds really are starting to look pretty good. Pretty good. All right, we're going to put a little more coals on there. Move it around a little bit. We might as well put on another piece of pecan. An hour into it, I'm starting to see some drippings coming down and collecting in our bottom drip pans. All right, let's close it back up, and we're gonna really just monitor the temperature on everything. We'll come back in 30 minutes. All right, so we are an hour and a half into this cook right now. We have an ambient temperature of 289 on probe 1, 269 on probe 2. So I'd probably say it's 289, 279, something like that. We have an internal temperature on probe 1 of 132, probe 2, 124, and it's saying it's gonna take somewhere roughly around an hour for this to complete. Let's check it out now and see how it looks. All right. Look at that. It's not getting the crispiness I was thinking. I'm not seeing kind of like the color I was expecting. I don't know if it's getting quite hot enough. I do see we have juices rendering. Let's look at this. Let's get a little bit closer and analyze it real quick. Hour and a half into it. So there's bird number 2 for probe number 2, and there's bird number 1 for probe number 1. And as you can see down there, we have, you know, fat is rendering. You can see it's dripping. I don't know, I was just kind of expecting it to be a little more juicy on the outside. And I'm just wondering if it's just because the heat's not quite there and this is just kind of going slower. It might be it. I mean, don't get me wrong, they don't look bad, but I don't know what's going on right there with those juices. I don't know if it's just not getting hot enough. But I mean, don't get me wrong. This looks really good. And it smells absolutely flavoricious, no doubt about it. So we'll see in about an hour what it's looking like, because that's how long it says it's going to take, is about an hour to get to 165. All right, let's close it back up. We'll just check that temperature and see where it's at. And hopefully in the next, I'm going to say half hour. It says an hour, but I'm going to say in a half hour it gets to our temperature of 165. We'll just keep our eye on that Typher wireless probe. All right. So we're 2 hours into it, and I have to be honest with you. I don't think using one coal basket for 2 birds on a rotisserie is the right option. And here's the reason why. 2 hours into it, we still have an ambient temperature of, I mean, the ambient temperature keeps coming down. So we're in the low, like 230s right now. And so that's just not high enough. Also, our internal temperature 2 hours into it is 143 and 140. So it's not, I mean, this is taking a long time. I don't think that doing one coal basket with lump coal is enough. And so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna jump in there. We're gonna have to top off that lump coal again. What I wanna do is I wanna overload it now, because I want those birds, I want the skin on those birds to get crispy. I want them to look really good and tasty. And I just don't feel that they do right now. So let's go check it out now at 2 hours. I will say this though, this does smell good. So if that does anything, boom. Man, I gotta tell you, I'm really not that impressed with how these birds look. I don't think we have enough temperature. I think really the way to do it is 2 baskets. I could be wrong, but maybe 1 basket's okay. It's right here in the center. Okay, I get it. With 1 bird right in the center. Okay, that makes sense. But this 2 birds, nah, I don't know. So let's pump some more coal in there and get this thing cranking. And I tell you what, this B&B stuff is pretty awesome, but it's just got a lot of big stuff, which is normally pretty good. But I want a bunch of little stuff because I want a bunch of this little stuff to get real hot. Really hard to find little stuff on here. Normally that's not something you complain about. Yeah, I'm just not really impressed with the way these birds look right now. Gotta be honest with you. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. I'm not crazy impressed. I'll show you what I mean. Now 2 hours into it, I would expect these things to look a lot better. But I gotta tell you, they don't look all that great. And to be fair, I'm not even seeing a lot of juice down there. So, see what I mean? Look at that. I mean, yeah, there's juice down there. There's not a whole lot on this one. So, I'm just thinking these things need to get much, much hotter. I really do feel that. I feel that this is just isn't enough temperature for this. I mean, this only fire rotisserie is doing its job. It's holding 2 birds. It's spinning 2 birds. So it has enough power to do it. That's great. Way to go again with Only Fire. They make some pretty good stuff for a very decent price. We just filled up that coal basket. So hopefully that's going to get to temperature. I'm going to keep this open for just a couple minutes because I want this to breathe as much as it can. And I want those to get hot, really hot. And then we'll close this back up. We'll get it cranking and hopefully push it through to the 165 that we're after. Because right now, that Typher wireless thermometer says it's going to take an hour and a half to get there. Another 30 degrees. So that's just really depressing. I'm going to keep this open for just a few minutes and then we're going to close it and then we'll come back. Real quick before we close this, I have some thoughts about this. I'm seeing this like this weird white foggy stuff that's popping up on the bird around here. And I wasn't really sure what it was. Let me show you real quick. But I think I kind of know now. Let's see. Like right there. You see that buildup? You see that buildup on the wing right there? That white, it almost looks like a glazed donut. Like you can see it right here. It looks kind of like a glazed donut. You know what I think that is? I think that's the salt, because this thing sat for 72 hours and I gotta be honest, it was probably a little longer than that. But this thing really kind of looks like a glazed donut a little bit. So I'm thinking the salt is coming out. It's cooking out. And it's kind of giving it this weird coating, which it might look ugly, but it might taste amazing. Time will tell. Let's close this bad boy back up and get this to temperature. We'll just check that temperature and see where it's at. And hopefully in the next, I'm going to say half hour. It says an hour, but I'm going to say in a half hour, it gets to our temperature of 165. We'll just keep our eye on that Typher wireless probe. All right, let's think about this for a second. If it's too salty, is the entire inside salty? You know, or is it just the outer part? And I got to tell you, salt is our friend a lot of times when it comes to barbecue stuff. So I'm thinking that the skin really absorbed a ton of that salt in that wet brine for that 72 hours. And it's now exuding out of that skin. But the amount that penetrated inside the meat of the bird, is that going to be coming out? Or was it too much that went into it? I don't think so. And I tell you the reason why. There's not a lot of intramuscular fat for like little veins and little alleyways and everything for that salt to really penetrate. So I think if it was a beef product and we had it marinating or wet brining for 72 hours in all that salt brine that we did, it might be too much. But I think with poultry, because it's so lean, I have a prediction that it's actually going to be really tasty. It might not look the best, but hey, if you follow along on my channel, my last bird didn't look the best either. But that's because there was a lot of sugar in the injection that I put in there, and that sugar exuded out and it burned on the outside of the bird. But the inside of the bird, well, that was flavoricious. And I'm guesstimating that that's going to be the same with this. I actually think this bird is going to be super, super, super flavoricious, but it's going to be ugly. So time will tell. We have an internal temperature of 146 degrees and 148 degrees. We have an ambient temperature of 309 and 296. So they're pretty close to one another. I went through and added a little bit of extra lump coal, but I don't know if that's giving me exactly what it needs to do. I want this like 350, 400 degrees. That way it's really cooking hot. I mean, right now it's still saying it's going to take 2 hours and 24 minutes to go from 146 degrees Fahrenheit to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think one coal basket with lump coal is enough to do it. You could top it off as much as you want, but I just don't think there's enough mass there to do it. Now, briquettes, that's a different deal. Briquettes, I don't know. I think they just hold that heat a little bit better, a little bit longer, and I've never had a problem. But I've also never, ever done one little basket, one little Weber basket. I've always done 2 baskets. This is interesting. We are coming up on, in less than 10 minutes, it's going to be, I think it's 2 hours. Let's see. 12:30 to 1:30. It's going to be 2.5 hours in just less than 10 minutes. Let's see if this thing looks good at all. All right. I know this hasn't gone exactly how I wanted it to, but we don't know that 100% sure yet. We don't know the end. You're going to have to stay to the end until I cut it open and then I bite into it to see if it actually tastes horrible, way too salty, or if it's good. Also at this point, please do me a huge favor. It turns out that 86% of the viewers on my channel are not subscribers. So could you do me this huge, huge favor and my family and subscribe to my channel? It helps me produce more valuable, flavorful content like this and even way better for you in the future. And I would really appreciate it because this is my dream and this is what I want to do. I want to help you make better purchases, buying decisions on backyard cooking gear. And my bigger dream is to inspire you to get creative and do really off the wall stuff, because that's when amazing things happen. When you go out of the box on cooking and try new, weird, and funny things, amazing things can come from that. Yes, I am talking to a steak. Also, I have all the links to everything I use on my channel at my MrFlavorsmith Amazon store. If you haven't gone there, it's amazon.com/shop/MrFlavorsmith. All one word, no period in there. That's amazon.com/shop/MrFlavorsmith. And there you will see, I have it broken down into different categories of all the different things that I use. Seasonings, marinades, thermometers, air fryers, essential barbecue gear, everything you could want for a Weber 22-inch kettle, conversions and modifications. It's just the easiest spot to find all sorts of fun and interesting things that I use on the MrFlavorsmith channel. All right, 2.5 hours into it. This is what we're looking at. Bird number 1, 150 degrees. Bird number 2, 153 degrees. We have an ambient temperature of about 318 to maybe like 310 degrees. It's saying it's going to take about 25 minutes for us to get to our desired targeted temperature, internal temperature of 165 degrees. Let's go check it out now. Here we go. Whoa. All right, let's get up and close and check these birds out. Like I said, you see that little residue on there? I am pretty sure that that white buildup is actually salt. I think it's salt. I really do. And I think the reason why we're not seeing a ton of juice down there in our drip pans, I mean, there's okay amount, but I think the reason why we're not seeing a lot of it is because in that wet brine bag, I think the salt pulled out a lot of juice from this bird. Now, this is just me guesstimating, but look at that. I'm pretty sure that's a salt buildup right there. I don't know. I really don't know, but it looks unlike any other rotisserie bird I've ever done. So this is interesting. Our coals, yeah, you know, I really feel you need to have 2 baskets in there. I don't think the one is enough to do 2 birds. Probably enough for 1 bird, but I don't think it's enough for 2 birds. I mean, look at the alignment. You see right where the center, the hot spot is of the coals. I'm going to say is probably like right there. Well, there's no bird right there. We have a bird here. We have a bird over here. So maybe this is nice and done. Maybe this is nice and done, but I'm kind of worried about this area over here. I'm kind of worried about this area over here. But I'm a little more worried about that glazed looking bird skin we have on there. We're going to close this back up and we're going to come back to it in roughly, I'm going to say maybe 20 more minutes. All right, so let's lock her back up. Ugly birds. Almost at 3 hours. We are super close. And probe number 2, so chicken number 2, actually just hit 165 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to wait a few more minutes. We've got 4 more minutes to go, and it's saying it's going to be 59 minutes for that to get the temperature. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll see. I'm going to wait until this bird hits 165 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature before we actually pull them. All right, we've done it. 165 degrees for both of these birds. I'm sure we're past that on bird number 2. Let's open it up, see what it looks like. I'm not expecting greatness here. Oh, yet again, these are ugly birds. Let's get a close look. Oh, look at that. That's totally what it is. It's the salt. The salt has kind of been exuded and extracted out of the skin that's there, and it's leaving kind of this like weird white frothy kind of frosted look. That's totally what that is. That is the salt. So now here's the question though. Here is the question. Are these gonna taste good? I don't really care what they look like. I want to know, is this gonna taste good? I mean, this is not, you know, show quality looking stuff, but I tell you what, most of the time the skin comes off on a rotisserie bird anyway, and we're just cutting into that white meat, and that's what my family likes. So we'll see if this was worth it. Let's pull it off. So I use these white cotton gloves. These white cotton gloves just help me with the heat. So I put these on as the base layer like this. That's the base layer. And then I know my hand size with these on, I always end up getting 2XL size on the nitrile gloves. That way it fits. It fits loosely without the cotton, and it fits nice and snug with the cotton. We're gonna pull it off. We're gonna turn the motor off, stop these birds from spinning. We're gonna open up our drip ease bin. We're gonna put our birds in there. I'm pulling out the spit right now. I'm gonna stick it right here. We're gonna start pulling the birds off. Pull off this piece first. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna keep the probe in there. I'm just gonna slide that bird off. Pick it up, put it in the bin. Slide off the other piece that was holding on that bird. Go over to our next one. Loosen that up, slide that one off, and then I will pull this bird off of here, just like that. Put it in the bin, put our drip ease bin lid back on, and it's gonna sit in here for about 20 minutes. We don't wanna touch that bird because whatever juices are on the inside of the bird, we want this to cool down. We don't want all those juices coming out. So we're just gonna keep it in here for about 20 minutes and then we're gonna take it inside and we're gonna cut it up. That was a solid 3 hours and 15 minutes. Insane. All right, everybody, here we go. Check it out. We've got our legs, we've got some white meat right here, and we have some dark meat right here. That is the results. How long was that? I think it was 3.5 hours. That's insane. 3 hours is insane. Whatever it is. All right, so here's the deal. Let's just run over this real quick. I wet brined it in a bunch of salt. You saw how that all went together. That was for 72 hours. To be fair, it was over 72 hours. I don't know how much exactly, but I know it was at least a couple hours over. I worry that what we were seeing was too much salt. It was just salt being pulled out. So I'm worried that this is gonna be really, really salty. Now that could be a good thing and a bad thing because like I said before, there's not a lot of intramuscular fat. Actually, there's really nothing in a chicken. And so you might want that. Let's try the driest of it all first, which is the white meat, and see how moist that is. Wow. Wow. Man, honestly, that's got flavor every way in it. Wow, I'm not getting smoky flavor. I'm getting really salty. I tell you what though, for white meat, that was a good bite. All right, let me try some of the dark meat. This came from like the thigh area right there, okay? So this was the thigh area. This is what the white meat was looking like. Don't really see much of a smoke ring on there. You know, this is one of the drier pieces because I just like well done. So this was from the thigh. Wow, that's really salty. That was too much salt. That's too much salt. The white meat, it's deeper in, right? The dark meat, that's too salty. All right, let's try a leg. I know what this is gonna be like. Yeah. All right. This is way too salty, guys. This is what I would do. One, I would do what I normally do. Never go past 48 hours. If you're gonna do a wet brine, don't go past 48 hours. Also, I probably put too much salt in that recipe, so I would back off on the salt just a little bit. Maybe do a quarter less than what I did. Only go for 48 hours max. You know, 24-hour wet brine is usually pretty good, between 24 hours and 48 hours. Don't let it go past 48 hours, especially if you put a lot of salt in there. I will say the flavor is really good. I'm not getting hints of the smoke though, which is really weird. I don't know the reason why, but that's what that crust was that we were seeing that was forming. It was kind of like a glazed donut frosting. That was definitely the salt being pulled out of the meat. Maybe not so much being pulled out of meat, but definitely being pulled out of that skin. Too much salt. But hey, it did work. Now, final thoughts on this. So the takeaway from this, no longer than 48 hours, back off on the salt just a little bit. The flavor was amazing. The seasoning that went on there was great. The wet brine did taste super, super good, just too much salt. The cook took too long to do, so you do need to have 2 cold baskets, in my personal opinion, when you're doing lump, because lump it gets real hot real quick and then dies out. If you're gonna do briquettes are a little bit different, so they could probably sustain 1 basket. I've just always used 2, and I've managed my heat, my top and my bottom. That way I got the desired heat I wanted. It was very hard for me to get with 1 basket, even putting additional lump in there and mixing it around and everything. It was hard for me to sustain anything above 330 degrees for any length of time. It was very hard for me to sustain 330 degrees. It wanted to sit more at that 250 to 270 range, which is fine. But for poultry, I just think you need to have a little bit hotter temperature on there. And I think we need to be more in that like 320 to say 400 degree range Fahrenheit. That way you're not sitting here all day, because this shouldn't have taken more than 2 hours. It was ridiculous how long it took. Good stuff though. Hope you got value out of this today. Please, if you did get any value out of this today, do me a huge favor, like the video. Even if you didn't like it, like the video and the effort I put into it. Subscribe to the channel. Put a comment in there. Hey, what did I do wrong? What did you see that drove you nuts that I did wrong? Put it in the comments. What did you like that I did? In all, I'd say this was a great little experiment. And remember, this came from you guys. You wanted to see how long I could push a wet brine, and you also wanted to see what it would be like for me to do 1 Weber coal basket instead of 2, and with lump coal. So I took those together, combined them together. I had a bunch of people say they wanted me to do that throughout the past few months. So I decided to finally do it again. Next time, I'm gonna change it up. Remember, until next time, live a life of flavor.